All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and make another short clip tonight. Try to cut it short because I got to get it up early tomorrow morning. But here we go. So we're going to lead off with this story where, well, last night we ended with this thing from, it wasn't Breitbart, but Breitbart's covering the same story. Trump's telling states to use the National Guard to remove migrants across the southern border. Obviously, this is a problem because removing immigrants or pushing them back across the border, that's a federal thing. As soon as Texas does that, it, as a state, is having some sort of an impact or relationship with Mexico, which would be a problem because only the U.S. government, the national government, is supposed to be handling that kind of stuff. So that's old news. That's where we left. That's where we left off. What I want to go over is we had a couple of different sources on this, Wired and Scanner News, but it's the same basic thing. We have right wingers. There's an armed convoy. Well, according to Wired, it's an armed convoy that's going to be heading to the border to basically show its support for stopping this illegal immigration crisis. I prefer Scanner News. There's a lot less bias jammed in there, so we'll just kind of read from them instead. So it's a Telegram channel. So it's a Telegram channel that's organizing this whole thing. It's called Take Our Border Back Convoy. It looks like it's a big trucker thing that's going on right now. They have meeting points, so they're going to be meeting Eagle Pass, Yuma, Arizona, San Ysidro, California. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. Starting January 29th, so in a few days. We got their little promo thing from Twitter up here. So the website even for the event states calling on all active retired law enforcement and military veterans, mama bears, elected officials, business owners, ranchers, truckers, bikers, media, and law-abiding, freedom-loving Americans. And it's pretty much a simple thing. It's more like just a public protest where they're just saying, hey, we want our border to no longer to continue to be invaded by all these foreigners, which is a perfectly reasonable thing to want and advocate for. But when you go back to the Wired source, they obviously call it an armed convoy heading to Texas, and it sounds more like a militia that's trying to engage in this stuff. When you read from Scanner News, it seems like that's not really the case. Like, Wired focuses a lot on like the people who are organizing it, like this one U.S. Army. It's a retired guy from the U.S. Army, a lieutenant colonel. I mean, both sources talk about that, but according to Wired, it's like it talks about their military experience and makes it sound like it's something that I don't think it is. Because when you read the Scanner News article, it seems like that's not what's going on at all. Anyhow, basically, the article finishes by citing everything that's already happened. We've had 25 governors that have signaled support for Abbott, all the things that Abbott has cited to justify what he's been doing. Moving on, we have RFK Jr., who says he's supporting Texas when in terms of their defiance of the Supreme Court's stupidity and Biden intentionally harming the country. In his words, Biden's failure to secure the border leaves states no choice but to take matters into their own hands. Perfectly reasonable, if you ask me. Kennedy, who was previously a Democrat presidential candidate until late last year, expressed support for the Lone Star State on Thursday in a Thursday X post. Texas is right, Kennedy wrote. Biden's failure to secure the border leaves states no choice but to take matters into their own hands. Kennedy vowed to end the humanitarian crisis once for all if elected president. I don't think he'll get there, but if he did, it's nice of him to say that he'll do that. We'll see about that. But yeah, that's basically the gist of it. They keep going on more about what's already happened, which is nice filler stuff, but it's not as interesting. Like the main takeaway is that Kennedy's basically saying, hey, what the Republicans doing, what Abbott's doing, what Texas is doing, reasonable considering that what Biden's doing is not reasonable. Moving on, Don Huffins. Most people probably don't know him, but he was running for Texas governor back in the last election for Texas governor. So 2022, he was running in the GOP primary against Abbott. This guy's more of a libertarian streak kind of guy. He's less establishment in my opinion, but still, as someone who's more Christian, I don't really care as much for the libertarian perspective. But in any case, doesn't matter. Point is, he's more of a libertarian guy. I believe he was endorsed by Rand Paul when he was trying to get the spot. It never worked out for him. What was interesting is that he and the other guy running in the Texas primary, Alan West, they had very strong stances of we need to use the National Guard to secure the border. And he lays out this argument. He doesn't mention Alan West, but this was part of his argument when he was running that he should be governor because he'll use the National Guard to secure the border. Well, lo and behold, guess what's happening? Our current Texas governor, who's been kind of like soft, is taking the issue more seriously, and it pushed him to the right on this issue, or it pushed him to take the issue more seriously. So hey, that's a victory of sorts. So we'll just go ahead and read it for a little bit. There's a constitutional crisis brewing in America, and the epicenter of the fight happens to be in my home state, Texas. The events in the coming weeks and months will reshape the power of the states vis-a-vis the federal government. The facts are simple enough. We infamously share a 1,981-kilometer border with Mexico. Illegal immigration, always a socioeconomic problem, is approaching a crisis point. Just last month, a historical record-breaking 300,000 illegal immigrants were processed. It is an invasion parallel to what is occurring in parts of Europe. This is all true. And then he talks about how he challenged Abbott in the last election to basically go through with using the National Guard. And yeah, that's essentially, it's all true. It's what happened. So we see, I guess you could say, in these intra-party races within the Republican Party, where it's like, the voters are wanting someone that's more right-wing. The establishment types, the people, the incumbents, they know what the voters want. And if they don't toughen up and act, they're not going to be able to keep winning re-election. So we had this one guy who maybe he would be better than Abbott. All right, that's a fair argument. But in any case, he got pushed in the direction the voters wanted because other people were willing to challenge him, and that makes him look weak. But yeah, no, this is all good stuff. Moving on, we're going to talk about Greg Abbott a little bit now. So he says that 10 other states have deployed National Guard to Texas, and this is significant because it's no longer just like governors of other states saying, yeah, sure, this is a great idea. It's not just them giving him money or materials to help secure the border. They're sending armed soldiers. I mean, that's what National Guard is. It's essentially like state military to a degree. I mean, it's kind of that way, not 100%, but it's essentially that. So, in other words, other states sending their own military personnel or pseudo law enforcement, whatever you want to consider the National Guard, state militia. I think state militia is kind of an oxymoron. Doesn't make sense, but doesn't matter. Point is, they're sending what amounts to their own state military to Texas. So if there's any sort of showdown with the federal government, the National Guard from the other states is also there, alongside the Texas National Guard. And so that complicates the matter even further if the Biden administration wants to use force to make Texas comply. In the words of Greg Abbott, this is a fight for the future of America, and they all know it. He's 100% correct. This is an overt attempt by the Democrats to force in a brand new demographic into the U.S. to try and secure perpetual electoral victories, and I resent them for that. I think they should. I don't want them to be competing for the votes from a bunch of strangers who they just started giving benefits to. I want them to try to compete for my vote and make arguments to me about why I should vote for them. They're not doing that. They're cheating. They're breaking the system. They're genuinely terrible for that. I don't respect them at all. In a Friday interview with Abbott, Tucker Carlson asked the Lone Star governor to speculate about how many Republican governors would send National Guard to the Lone Star State. There have been about 10 so far that have sent National Guard or other law enforcement. He added that he would be shocked and disappointed if almost all of them do not send troops. So we're up to 10 so far, and he's saying expect every single red state, or at least most of them, to wind up sending their own troops or National Guard to the border, to Texas, to help them. And so far, we're pretty much on track for that. Moving on. Abbott has also said that Texas is prepared for confrontation with federal authorities. We will continue to do exactly what we're doing to expand our denial of illegal entry into the state of Texas. So, this is again from the Fox News, from the Tucker Carlson interview. I've seen some excerpts of it, but over the weekend I'll try to watch the whole thing. Fairly significant things that have been said, though, where basically Greg Abbott's saying, if it gets worse, we're prepared for conflict. Now, this could all just be words, right? But you keep saying all these things, eventually people are going to have to take you seriously, or at least force you to back up what you said and see if you're going to fold. I don't know. We're kind of in a game of chicken to see who folds first, the Biden administration or Greg Abbott, governor of Texas. I'm hoping Biden backs down because I don't like his policy. I don't like his agenda. I don't like what he's doing to my state, to the country. But we'll see how it all turns out. This is Tucker Carlson, his interview with Greg Abbott. Yeah, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Significant stuff. I also think that this Twitter post from Brett Weinstein, is that how you say it? Weinstein? I can never remember. Doesn't matter. Point is, he says he was just recently in Darien, Panama. He says that the migration is being encouraged and funded by the U.S. and the UN. Well, go figure. That's basically what we already knew. I mean, not only are they going to have large international nonprofit organizations funded by billionaires looking for a charity cause, right? Those groups are obviously going to be doing the work. But every time the U.S. sends money to these foreign countries, I wonder how much of it winds up into these programs to help facilitate illegal immigration. I mean, that's what these immigration advocacy centers are. They are part of a cartel that smuggles and ships illegal immigrants into the United States, and I believe it's for the purpose of destabilizing the country. I don't believe these people are in any way genuinely trying to help them. I would have them, any member of these organizations in the U.S., including a lot of immigration lawyers, I would have arrested. Because I do not, I don't know, I'm saying arrest the lawyers. Well, I think they're actively trying to help people break the law break the laws of the United States. I see them as enemies. I don't see them as being people that should be trusted. And for that reason, yeah, I believe they should all be investigated, probably imprisoned. But, I mean, that's not where we are right now. Right now, we are in an escalating crisis on the border between Texas and Biden. We're going to see how that ends. I don't know. I don't know how it ends. But I'll tell you this. If we can manage to make it a few more months and get Trump in office, maybe there's a chance that we avoid a total collapse of the United States, of violent conflict, and we can get some accountability to the system so that all these corrupt forces can be held to account for the things that they have done to actively hurt the United States of America. That's what I'm hoping for. I want a peaceful transition of power, and I do recognize that this looks like it's getting less and less likely as things get crazier, but that's what I want. And that's what I'm shooting for. And that's kind of why I'm complaining about this stuff, because it's like, number one, I get to voice my opinions on these things. I get concerned, especially if, if a violent conflict breaks out, I'm still draftable. That's not exactly a fun reality. I know a lot of other people who are also draftable. That's not going to be fun for them either. War is not great, so hopefully everyone backs down. Well, hopefully Biden backs down and we end this crisis, we get Trump in, and we start deporting these people by the millions and get them out. They were never supposed to be here. They broke the law coming here. They knew they were breaking the law coming here. Honestly, I don't want them. Go back. But we'll see how it all ends. Anyhow, thanks for listening. Consider liking and subscribing, and have a good night. Bye.